majority of us are so indoctrinated that we're very sick. And there is a cabal of maybe 15 to 20% who are very active. And you see the same people in the same places, only because of the digital era, we're not separated by any one degree. And that's internationally. Took Harlem during the Depression and enabled 1,000 people to have employment when Europeans were throwing themselves off roofs because the stock market crashed. It's coming again. It's coming here. And you'll see it a lot quicker in the States. So this is our opportunity to prepare. And this is the term we've been banding around, that's Blaxit. It's about separation. It's about separation based on taxation, because we can donate all of our taxable income to our charitable entities and to our trusts. That's a self-sustaining ecosystem. When we do that, we're free. And trusts lie outside of UK legislation. In fact, they lie outside of all national legislations. So we make our trusts international in nature. So when you look at an APAC, which is an Israeli lobbying committee, we can do exactly the same. And then it's just plugging in state by African state, which is modular. When we start to think modular and scalable, we become dangerous because you have to start from where you are. And we always have these grandiose plans. And everybody talks in a very romantic way about Garvey and where he was before the FBI and this transvestite Hoover took him down. Where he was a culmination of many relationships and many years' work. Do we ask if it was a year? Do we ask if it was a decade to come to the space where he employed 1,000 people? No, we don't. But what we do know in the lessons from that is that we can't have figureheads anymore, because figureheads get cut off. And this is why we need the institutions. And while we prep those institutions, we create succession plans. So just like every society is looking at those with potential to groom, we've got to be looking at those with potential to groom and have our own societies. So we groom them for politics, we groom them for economics, we groom them for media ownership. And then when you look in a decade's time, where there are powerful cabals of us, you know why? It's not by mistake. It's by the machinations of many backrooms, a lot of grooming, scholarships, placing people in positions. This is an ecosystem because nothing works in isolation. Nature is what we follow because we're natural people. Trees feed us oxygen. We feed trees back carbon dioxide. This is a natural ecosystem. So everything we do from this point must be based on an ecosystem that is functional. When we're in that functional ecosystem, it's kinetic, like the battery, where one feeds one. We feed our businesses reinvest their taxation in our entities, our children and our families experience them, and it's kinetic. We aren't friends, let's be honest with each other, with people for no reason. Why would you be friends with somebody because you knew their last name? It's functional. Friends rely on friends. Ecosystems rely on each other. And that's what we need today. And that's what we're doing today. There are brotherhoods that are involved in the creation of things right now that would sound very mercenary to most of us, but they have a clarity that 99% of us don't. And there are things being financed and incorporated now that are going to represent us over the course of whatever this fallout is from Europeans playing with fiat currencies, where we're not going to be touched by them, or those who choose not to be touched by them, because there'll be a hell of a lot of us who will fight to fix a system that isn't broken. That system is a system of white supremacy as we know it. Now, it doesn't matter how much money you have as an individual, that's an individual success. Your children are still going to be in state schools, still largely taught by European women that can be expelled or put into proofs for the infraction of having the wrong hairstyle. So we don't see that as a reason to punish our children. It's our obligation to uphold, promote, and preserve our culture. So when we understand that, we do it. And by doing this frequently, and by sharing these messages with the many, and it's not going to be a thing of the sky turning lilac overnight and everybody jumping on board, because they won't. But what will happen is by drip feeding constantly by our own media from many different directions, you'll see that people start to come on side. So first of all, we'll celebrate Americans because it's not real. You see, for me, celebrating Americans and what they do and say, oh, we'll do that here. No, we wouldn't. You want an example? If you have a man who win £1 million in the lottery, brethren, you know if I win this thing, I give you half. I got half. $500,000. So well done, brethren. If you win $500,000, would you give me a quarter? Come on, king. You know me. So if you win 100 grand, you give me 50 quid. Tomorrow. How much you got in your wallet? Whoa. That's different. Okay. And that's what America is for us. It's like a fantasy that's not obtainable. We can't touch it. We can't see it. We can't feel it. We don't really believe it. But it sounds nice. So when it's here, it's a little bit like violence that you see in a movie. We love it, don't we? But have you ever seen anybody stabbed in real life? It's horrible. Have you ever seen anybody shot with their jaw hanging off? It's horrible. When somebody do the death shake in your arms, it's horrible. It's not romantic. It's not cute, but it looks nice on camera. This room isn't the camera. This is real life. So everybody here is at least committed to some form of change. A change that is, it has to be functional. So first of all, we got to master it in our own life before we can package and sell it to anybody else. If we don't believe in this educational system, we personally got to take our children out. But who wants to homeschool? Not even I want to homeschool. 4 years in. So what we want are the institutions that are going to represent us. And that's only going to be done with mass adoption. And for mass adoption, we've got to make it attractive to everybody. So that is coordinating all of our own media entities, radio, print, TV, online. And online and TV have merged into one thing. We don't need licenses for any of this stuff anymore because tech has taken over. And anybody wasting time with FM radio stations or anything else, that's what apps are for. One place we can compete is technologically because it levels the playing field. It completely democratizes it. There's no limitation that our young people can be held back with technology. This brother here, Leon, one of the hardest working young men I've ever seen. And I've seen him in Hyde Park at 10 a.m. before anybody's there to start filming at Speaker's Corner, decided himself to incorporate his own TV network. And whether he knows it or not, we have a colleague in tandem, John Canu, who goes to all of the meetings to coordinate Hyde Park. And the bodies that be actually want him to be the official videographer. So I may even just be breaking that now. But now I'm going to break something else to Leon from Content Over Everything as well. They know that people speak very freely and nakedly to Leon. And all they got to do is go look on our network to find out all the information. So what you just learned very quickly is we have a great responsibility as media owners to protect our own. We have to think about everything that we're doing in as sophisticated a way as them. And those rooms are cold, clinical logic. I was in a room like this with brothers on Monday in Manchester. It was cold, clinical logic and reason. And we were talking about things that we don't talk to lay people about. And these things are happening. And these things are being funded. And there is an ilk of person in our community that we don't envisage because we don't see them every day. Because this isn't the place for them to speak. We have our own rooms of counsel. And these things are happening right now. The key for us, every single one of us, is to share the information because then we become propagandists in all of this. So we see it as a nefarious term as used by Europeans. But no, it's not. You want to see propaganda? This country is bankrupt. The United States and most of these European-run, fiat currency-backed countries are bankrupt. But you see them, they look shiny and they're beautiful. It's like a beautiful blonde woman dancing in a red dress with dirty underwear. But you will never know because you won't get that close. So once you realize that, then you see this is the power of positive propaganda. Now you know the difference because you see what we allow to happen with us. Negative propaganda. Africa, suffering, famine, debt, disease. But go and take a holiday and see your friends in the Gambia who are property owners, who don't want to come back here more than 4 months of the year because it's cold. And they're not struggling. And the tourists are supporting them. Go to Ghana, where me and my colleagues had discussions, and it's crazy when you think about young men who have, we would call unofficial chemists, who have a fantastic income, who don't change up their lives like the Kennedys did. And do you know how much it costs to open a local bank in Ghana? I think it's millions, right? 5 million, 10 million, 2 million, 200,000 US dollars. And immediately you have a bank, you can loan 10 times what you have in reserve. If you decided it was going to be a development bank, you from the outside as returnees, dealing with governments, creating these contracts between the West, how you're supposed to, you pay Germans to come in, create superstructures and go home. And you pay them at the rate they're supposed to. Because what the Chinese do is first they come in with an irresistible proposition. Anything that's unrealistic is always irresistible to a fool. Where they come to swap their magic beans for African cows. And we're susceptible, so we do it. And we take it. Only then, they're contractors. And their contractors are coming to stay. And they're also going to play while they're there. But Chinese aren't like Germans. Their building work isn't of the same quality. It's not sustainable. And it's expensive because then they run over. Oh my God, now the budget goes up. Now the terms of the loan change. But you know what you do? In a time of knowledge, we find those who are the most effective builders. And we employ them. So when German superstructures go up in a week, why don't we just pay people? And if you have a bank and it's a development bank, own the debt. This is the smart way of doing things. This is the way everybody else does things. Now you have the real bigger question that people ask of all politicians. Do you think it's all right to pay them? We're all big people in this room. Pay them. Because if you don't, Europeans will. Chinese will. This thing of your spirit and not feeling right, when you go in a room with big people, and big people are working, they get paid. And if they don't get paid enough by the government, they're going to become very entrepreneurial in their role. Like when some of you have traveled and found that with police, they become entrepreneurial in some countries. However, you know by pulling something out of your pocket and paying, it can be a very expedient conversation, and you're on your way. So we have to advance how we think and move into how the world actually works, because we haven't. Number one, our distant cousins, white mummy and daddy, have been the saviors we're looking for. Just to give everybody in this room clarity about our position. I'm going to say this very quickly before I introduce our first guest speaker, performer. In 2015, we're all aware that our kidnappers' families were paid reparations for the stock they lost. Now imagine, we were left in the Caribbean doing fine, and they invited us over here to fix the motherland. And then what did they do when we came and we worked? They taxed us, right? And you know where that taxation went? Reparations has gone down like chicken, just not for us. That reparations that went down like chicken went to them. And they've now been recompensed 4 years ago. So what we are surplus to requirement. Have clarity about that. And that is why the 6 private prisons that have been built are going to have employees that look like our children. Have clarity about that. We have outlived our usefulness. So now if that doesn't scare anybody, if you find in your child in a Peru who's highly intelligent and polite, don't worry what you think these people won't do, because the cameras are watching. We're not going to be in Europe anymore. And all your rights came from Europe. Your 40-hour week came from Europe. It's less than 100 years ago that 7-year-olds were chimney sweeps and suffering from lung diseases and dying before 10. Have clarity about this barren little island and their own. All of these machinations were worked out long before they kidnapped us. The Scottish, the Irish, and the Welsh. And that's why English people are despised in all of those places. But you see, money speaks louder than anything else, so they become accepted again. Understand our state in the union. But brothers and sisters, if we can have a hand for Tony Dada and his band, they're going to be performing now.
Thank you, brother. Wow. How do you follow that? I'm sitting there, I don't know about you, but I just learned a whole load of stuff today already. I'm like, give me a moment, brother. I just want to take some in. So, how do you follow that? Well, I just want to say thank you for giving me the opportunity to come and just do a little something for you. I was speaking to Iola, and she said, you know, we were talking about perhaps bringing a different kind of flavor, you know, just to change the vibe and change the energy. Now, for some of you who know me as Tony Dada, the GPS mentor coach, that's really my background. So for the last 27 years, I've been investing in our community. For 20 years, working with our young people, those that society had given up on and said were disadvantaged and couldn't do anything. And, you know, how many people subscribe to that? How many people believe that our young people are disadvantaged and can't? Yeah, it's not true. And I found that for myself working with some of our young people. Using creativity and visioning and taking personal responsibility, we can be anything. We can achieve anything. And this is something that we've done through our organization. So when Iola invited me, gave me the opportunity to come and do something with you, I thought, why not? So I'm going to invite my sister, Kalila. Kalila, so you may not know me in a singing capacity, but as I said, creativity is my God-given gift. And so I use that in all of my work. I refer to myself as a creative social entrepreneur. We all have that gift of creativity, and it's about understanding what our gifts are and how we use them. You know, my brother spoke earlier on about taking personal responsibility. For me, when I sit here today, I'm in a state of bliss. Why? Because 35 years ago, I was living in South London, and it was like a war zone for me, particularly because, and I see my brother there from school, so he knows what I'm about to say. There was a disconnect, unfortunately, in terms of, certainly as I'm a Nigerian, and there was just a war between Nigerians and West Indians in my world. And my sister's shaking her head. She can relate to that. And I wrote a song, and hopefully later on I'll get a chance to do it. But it was a soul cry that, even as a young teenager, I was like, why can't we wake up to the truth about who we really are and come together? But you know what? The beauty for me today is, here I am, a Nigerian, with a sister from Jamaica, or from the Caribbean, and we're going to do a song together. And for me, that speaks about progress. That speaks about us getting to a point of realizing that we have to wake up and recognize who and what we truly are. So with your permission, we're just going to do a little something for you. Is that all right? And if you feel the vibe, you can tap your hand. You know, we want to change the energy. We want to change the vibe in the place today. Is that all right? Sorry, let's try again. Is that all right? Okay, all right. So, sister, always let the lady lead the way. Oh, pirates, yes, they robbed I, sold I to the merchant ship. They took I from the bottomless pit, but my hand was made strong by the hand of the Almighty. We forward in this generation triumphantly. If you know the song, won't you help me sing these songs of freedom? 'Cause all I ever had, redemption songs. Emancipate yourself from mental slavery. None of ourselves can take our time. Have no faith in atomic energy, 'cause none of them can stop the time. How long will they till our profits while we stand aside and look? Some say it's just a part of it. We got to fulfill the book. Won't you help me sing? I can't hear. 'Cause all I ever had, redemption songs, redemption songs, redemption songs. Can't hear. 'Cause all I ever had, redemption songs. Emancipate yourself from mental slavery. None of them can stop our time. Have no fear in atomic energy. None of them can stop the time. How long will they kill our prophets while we stand aside and look? Some say it's just a part of it. We got to fulfill the book. Won't you help me sing these songs of freedom? 'Cause all I ever had, that's better, redemption songs again. 'Cause all I ever had, redemption songs again. 'Cause all I ever had, Redemption songs. Redemption songs. Redemption songs. Redemption songs. Thank you. Thank you, sister. So, I feel very honored to be able to sing that as a Niger boy, you know. But, you know, and it just speaks about the soul, the spirit that we have. You know, growing up as a teenager in this country, I was always on the sound system because my soul connects. Do you understand? There's an overstanding, a connection. And this is really why I'm excited about the times that we're living in. That we've risen up above just the physical and recognizing the spiritual nature that we possess. And when we come to that place, then it's a different conversation. I had a blessed scenario 35 years ago where I met someone who became my spiritual mentor. And he still is my spiritual mentor today. And he's from Africa. And he gave me an education far beyond anything that I could ever have attained. Yes, I got a degree from this country, and I appreciate that. But my real lessons of how to navigate this thing called life came from someone who came from a supposed third world country. Are you feeling me? Yeah. So it's about us recognizing what time this is, and it's about us waking up to the realities of who we are and taking personal responsibility for who we are and how we want to show up in the world. And so I just want to do one last song, if that's all right with you. Yeah? Okay. Wake up. Okay. And so, yeah, you can tap your hands because you might not know this song. It's an old song. Wake up, everybody. No more sleeping in bed. No more backward thinking. Time for looking ahead. The world has changed so very much from what it used to be. There is so much hatred, war, and poverty. Wake up, all the teachers, time to teach a new way. And maybe then they'll listen to what you have to say. 'Cause they're the ones who's coming up, and the world is in their hands. So when you teach the children, teach them the very best you can. Because the world won't get no better if we just let it be. No, 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 no. The world won't get no better. Gotta change it, yes. You and me. You and me. You and me. We gotta change it, yes. You and me. Thank you very much. A round of applause for my sister Kalila. Thank you very much, brother. Hope you enjoy the rest of the evening.
Okay, thank you, Tony. From one Tony to another Tony. Thank you very much. So, this part of the event is in twofold. This is the first part that I'm going to do with you, and I'm going to try to do something at the end. Both of them are going to be short. So, for this thing, I feel it's important for me, and I'm sure you relate to it, is that somehow, when we leave here tonight, I feel that we need to be somehow more connected than how we first started. I feel that we need to be much more connected than the way we are now with each other. So I want to try to shift some of that so that you can feel much more connected to the people that are here. Because it's important. We're on a journey, the way I see it. And for us to be on that journey, we need to know who we are with each other. So I've got a little creative exercise that's going to get you up out of your seats. If you like to all stand up for me. And essentially what you're going to do now, you're going to do two things. Each person is going to meet somebody in a short space of time that you don't know, and you're going to have two things in mind when you meet that person. One of them, and you can choose either way, one of you will have one thing to say to the other, and the other will have something else to say. And they can either be or the same as, what is it that I want from here tonight? And the second one is, what is it that we, me and you, because you've just met this person, are going to leave here tonight to do? Something that you can work in that short space of time. Maybe it's to say, well, look, let's link after we meet. Let's make a plan to collect something. I don't know what you are going to do, but this, essentially, by having a conversation with somebody that you don't know, to either decide on whether you want something to happen here tonight, express that to the person, or you're going to say, let us do something together, because it's about us coming together. It's about us finding a way to do something that we haven't done yet, and we're on a journey. Anyway, enough talking from me. Try to find somebody that you do not know and just go up to them, ideally in a pair. If there's a three, that's fine. But I want you to introduce yourselves to somebody briefly and find a way. What are you going to do? What is it that we can do together? Off you go. And smile, smile, be friendly. Use the whole space, don't be shy. Someone at the back, someone at the front.
My friend should be here.
Two more minutes, 2 more minutes, 2 more minutes. One more minute. 1 more minute. 30 seconds. 30 seconds. You speak to somebody? Okay, try to finish off with your conversations. Be finishing off those conversations. So we need to finish off our conversations.
This is what it's about. Tell me about it. You're connecting. You know what I mean? And this lady here, she was talking about learning. Do you know what I mean? And that's what it's all about. You know, you give, you receive, you give, you receive. You can't do one without the other. You know what I mean? You know, it's a counter what Dean said about trees. It's very true. It's part of your respiratory system. But people don't realise. You know what I mean? They think it's something that's alien to us, but we're all connected.
Me personally, if I'm in a place where someone left and I stay there.
I know you're a drama person, so that's a drama thing to do. You know what I mean? It's a very,
But, you know, just for us to even talk, you know, and come together and realise, you know, it's overrun. That's all it takes. But yeah. Okay, thank you very much. We're finishing off now. Thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to have those meaningful conversations. If I was I don't know, a fly or something, I would love to have heard what people were talking about. And I'm just wondering that the conversation you had with the person, what I'd like you to do is to be aware of them throughout this remaining event, because at the end, you've got your final bit of work to do that I'm going to set you before you leave. Essentially, what is the aim? The aim is for us to get to know each other a little bit better and try to find a way for us to create some action based on all of what the context of this work, because us within it as individuals, we've got our own work to do. And so I'm just trying to provide a little bit of a platform, a Kickstarter, for us to be able to start that work, because we can't wait until the next Thursday club. We've got work to do in between. And the work in between has to begin here. The people who are here, the people who have taken the time, who want to make that change. And the change, as you know, it starts with you. So I'm going to come back at the end, and I'm going to try to wrap up what you've been speaking about, what you're going to do, and put that into a context before the end. So I just want to say thank you very much. I hope that was useful. I hope you found some strong connections, and I'll see you on the other side. Give thanks. Our next speaker is Dean. Our next speaker. Yes. Can we give a big round of applause to Rodney?
Greetings, family. Greetings. Wow, I'm humbled. First of all, I'm happy to be here. I'm inspired by everything that's just happened today. On the flyer today, I think that it was mentioned some of my credentials and some of the various things that I've done. And I'll be honest with you, I just want to start with a baseline as to why I'm here and what gives me purpose politically. So the first person I have to actually mention is my grandmother from St. Vincent. She was pregnant at 14 and got kicked out. She, having had an education up until the age of 8 years old, she was on the street and had to manage by herself and became a market person in St. Vincent. Her goal, after having 4 children with no help, and after having her final child, who was a daughter, was to ensure that all the negative consequences that she'd seen in her life of women who'd been inflicted with pain and suffering would not happen to her daughter. And so, at that time, in the 1950s, there was a lady by the name of Mrs. Laborde, who was actually the aunt of a person many of us may know or have heard of Mr. Eric Williams, who was the first Premier of Trinidad. And she was an educator, however, she only was an educator for people who were of a certain hue. And my grandmother, being a blue-black, robust lady, went to Mrs. Laborde and said, Mrs. Laborde, please can you educate my daughter with her basket on her head? And Mrs. Laborde agreed because my grandmother had the gall to ask her. My mother was the person who was that child, who was the first person in our family to complete secondary school education. And since then, she became a teacher, and she became a registered nurse and came over to the UK. Most of my experience in the UK living here has been in Haringey, in Tottenham. And to ensure that I wouldn't be by the wayside of many of my peers, my mom used to take me to, if anyone remembers Head Start, the bookstore on West Green Road. Yeah, okay, my mom used to take me there every week, right? My mother had to raise me by herself whilst going to work in West London for a feminist organisation, experiencing racism every day, but again, did that to ensure that I was looked after. We are the ones who actually created the library in our primary school in Tottenham. We were the ones that actually took books from West Green Road to take to our school in primary school in Tottenham, which is actually the Green School in primary school. It's still there on Broad Lane, to inform my peers about our history because the school weren't going to do it. I only mention all of that because regardless of title, experience, etc., those are the things that formulate me today. And on the basis of Sankofa, I have to give thanks to my elders. Steve Biko said many things, and one of the things I remember for today is he stated that a community is easily divided if their perception of the same thing is different. I mention that because in this country, what often gets touted as the most tolerant country within the European Union, for many reasons, doesn't necessarily describe the reality that we face today as African and Caribbean people. So I just want to touch on some of that reality that, so that we could have a clear foundation as to where we are today. So we have a population in the UK overall of about 67 million people. Of that, there's 1.9 million African Caribbean people. Of that 1.9 million African Caribbean people, we have about 1.85 million who are living in urban environments. Of those people who are living in urban environments, most of us are living in the most impoverished, overcrowded environment, where there's a statistic where it states that black people, on the whole, are living in overcrowded environments 3 times more than their white counterpart. When it comes to the areas that we live in, many of us actually, and I'll probably do a survey after to find out who lives in East and South London, or so East and South areas of where they live, because those areas are actually the poorest areas of any vicinity you'd have in the UK. Why? Because in the Industrial Revolution, they had to think of where they were going to put the factories and think where the smoke from those trade winds were going to take all the carbon monoxide and noxious fumes. And so they weren't going to build those on the east sides of any kind of constituency. They were going to build them in the south and the east. And oftentimes, many of us live in the south and the east of wherever we are. When it comes to education, so we've had a recent change in grades, right, in terms of going from A, B, A to C's, and now it's a grade 9 to, I think, U. It's U1 now, isn't it? Okay. So I think on a recent stat, considering that, education is something that's really been formidable and pushed in our culture, after, let's say, 12 years of education, I think the statistic now is that we have less than 38% of our young people coming out with a grade 5 in maths and English after 12 years. We also, unfortunately, have a 3 times more likely, if not more than that, exclusion rate compared to our white counterparts. And something Brother D mentioned about our PRUs and our people referral units, when we're looking at our borough statistics, they don't get included in the Ofsted reports of whether it's good or outstanding or satisfactory. Why? Because they're outside of that agenda. So you don't know how many people or how many of our young people are actually being educated within the PRU and what their standards are, because they're not included in the stats. And we know we're overrepresented there. We also know that from the many amount of our young people who are within our PRUs, that's a direct pipeline into the prison system. Let's say we don't go there. Let's say we have a child who survives the educational system and then completes their A-levels. Compared to their white counterparts, if they manage to complete their A-levels, their salary is going to be at least 17.3 times less than their white counterpart. Let's say they go further, say, oh no, I don't want to just stay on my A-levels, I want to go to university, right? Okay. Well, unfortunately, the ironic thing is that the wage gap is worse. It's 23.1% less than their white counterpart for the same degree. Okay? When we're looking at our mortality rates within the areas that we live in, unfortunately, we have African women who, in some cases, are deemed to be 7 times more likely to have a higher mortality rate than our white counterparts, and 3 times more likely to be incarcerated within a mental health institution. Okay, these are just facts. You could check it on your what you call your ONS, your Office for National Statistics. You could check it on the government website. That's where we are today. So I just put that as a point of clarity before we have a discussion about whether or not we're living in a tolerant society. Because at the end of the day, I think that something, if we're experiencing this and we call this tolerant, I think, to say it politely, they have a damn nerve. Okay? In fact, if you look at the history of our people in this country and our contributions, whether here and abroad, I think we're the ones who have tolerated the abuse rather than the country tolerating our presence. The fact that you say you tolerate me being here doesn't mean that you accept me being here, because you tolerate my presence, and I'm supposed to feel good about that. Yeah? So, politics, and it was interesting. I was having a discussion earlier with one of our peers. Politics has to be something that is framed for our purposes. And it's very interesting when you see the various definitions of politics, because you then get to see definitions that talk about, the academic studies of government and organizations. Then you go into another field and say, well, politics is a study of political life, which is a circular definition. And I think the only definition that I thought that would be useful for today's discussion was that politics reflects the principles of a people or group that's related to power and status. Okay. Politics reflects the principles of a group that are related to power and status. Okay? So if what we're doing in our principles is not related to power and status, I think we need a little bit of a dress back. Yeah? Now, the reason why I also mentioned, some of the statistics before, and because, mentioned about the tolerant society is, again, just about the way that we've been programmed to even think about politics. Because oftentimes we think, we've been taught that politics is something that we get involved in every 4 to 5 years. We go to a ballot box, or we have, the electronic voting. We choose a member, and then, it's done. Right? That's our political life. That's it. And then many people say, well, I don't want to be involved in politics because what's the point? And what do they do? What does that do for me? And if that's the way that politics is run in your life, then I think you're right. Because politics should never be about delegating your individual freedom to take action that will improve your power and status. It's not about that. The fact that we have a system where we delegate our rights to local members who represent a constituency is the icing on the cake of what our political involvement and what our political life should be. Whether you ascribe to voting or not, it should be something that's nuanced and something that's reflected upon your principles. Many of us, let's be honest, whenever, even some of the section that do vote, how many of those people actually vote based upon the information that they've gained from their party manifesto and reading it and looking at, thinking about my own principles for my family and my community, where those things align or those things do not. Because let's be honest, many of us either vote based upon our own self-definitions of what we think our class is, whether we think we're working class or whether we think we're elitist, whether we think we're up and coming, and we're very tribalistic in our voting, but not adding the intelligence in our voting. Because we think, I'm going to vote for that party because, my family's always done that. They represent us, right? Because they talk about our people, right? Yeah, you haven't read the manifesto. So you may be voting for a party that hasn't mentioned anything about yourself and your community, and if you're aspiring to try and get a scholarship for maybe your child to escape the situation, they may have in that manifesto to say, you know what, we're going to scrap that because that's not part of our party line. Or furthermore, you may think that, I'm a hard-working man, I've worked, or lady, I've worked all the time, I've set up my own business, I've hired some people. Yeah, but that party describes me. Yeah, that same party is going to put increased business taxes. Okay. Yeah, at the same time, you might be quite nationalistic in your perspective, So you may think that the parties are really down for, British core values or African core values or what have you. I haven't seen a party down for African core values, by the way. That's another conversation. Yet there's soft touch on immigration. So without applying the intelligence to what we're doing, then we're just left as kind of like chafing the wind, to be quite honest. The reason why I mention my history is because, as entitled in my presentation, I take politics personally. So for me, politics is about whatever I need to do to ensure my family and my community enhances their power and their status. That could mean voting. It would definitely mean finding out who my local councillor is. It will 100% mean that. Because the thing is, many of us don't realise that, you have your MPs who are representing your constituency. However, in your locality, many of the decisions that are made based on your council tax, based on your business rates, based on whether or not they're going to knock down that youth centre or not, whether or not they're going to add public housing or not, whether or not they're actually going to think of how are we going to divide the budget so that our community is best served. You need to speak to your councillor and you know who your councillor is because they're involved in those conversations. Many of us don't know who that is. Many of us actually, when we have the the general elections, you normally have the council elections that sometimes run alongside, and you say, okay, yeah, I'm this party, tick. Oh, who are the councillors for that party? Tick, tick, tick. And that's, again, what we do. So, if we are thinking again about how we are going to move forward, I suggest, and I say that including myself, that we have to take an audit and we have to take an account of our principles and actions which define ourselves as a community. Because the thing is, we're supposed to have disagreements and have different perspectives and different understandings, because that's what creates the tapestry of life. We are supposed to have diversity within our unity. At the same time, we have the unity which forms our strength, and that's how we move forward. My personal politics ultimately come back to identity and culture. And when I mean culture, I don't think about the objective, aspects about the celebrations and your festivals. No, I talk about how do you live your life and what's important to you. So for me, knowing that I have a child in school that has the various lower ratings which are deemed acceptable by the school standards, but I know for my child's life with the African Caribbean context, no way are they going to be successful. That's principle for me to go to a PTA meeting. And I know many of us have pressures financially and otherwise, time pressures and otherwise, but at the end of the day, the principle has to be high. The principle that we're going to ensure that if a teacher is teaching a subject that doesn't align with my core values, they're going to know about it because I'm going to represent my child. Or let's talk about when you have the school governors meetings where they talk about exclusions of our children. We could talk about the rates of exclusion, but how many of us are school governors? Thank you. Give thanks. We need more. We need much more, but I'm glad that this lady's a school governor. Give her a round of applause, please. And no, we got two? Okay, we got two, sorry. I'm short-sighted. And we got three. Okay, hi. Specsavers, help me. Okay, right. The fact is we need more, yeah? But there might even be a discussion, like Brother Dean said, where we may even have to think about taking our children out of the educational system altogether. And how many of us are prepared for that? Not just individually, but collectively, and seeking support for that. For me, again, personally, political life is about taking issue with the things that affect you based on the principles, such as if I'm on my estate and I see a fly tipper, okay, well, I'm going to find out how we as a community can get together and ensure that, okay, this person doesn't do this again. Why? Because it's important for me. And I think, again, we have to examine what is important for us. Because with the statistics and with the position that we are as a community, if we are to ensure the legacy of our children, this cannot stand. And to be really honest, we are the generation to move forward with that, because our children will be looking at us, and the children will have a right to look at us and say they are going to hold us to account. Okay? One of the things I think that we also need to do is start reframing our discussions in terms of the words that we use, and not just accept words and classifications as if they're gospel. And I'll explain a little bit about that. I'm gonna kind of talk about some family business as well. My wife's in the background, so I'm kind of asking permission if I can. Yeah, I'm asking. She's smiling, so I'm assuming it's okay. Yeah, okay, cool. Oh, cool. So, yeah, real sweat, bro. Don't know if I'm gonna get food or anything, bro. So, so, like, sometimes you look on TV and, I get a bit licorice and I kind of say, yeah, I'm gonna go to Europe. And then I say, okay, well, yeah, let me go to a country like Slovenia. And then I look at these programs and they say, well, okay, thank you. Oh, yeah, but I need that, boy. Thank you. So I go to Slovenia, and on the programs they say, yeah, this is perfect. You know, great scenery, fantastic apartments, great customer service. You go down, great family life, and I get happy. And then I remember that I'm from the Caribbean, right? African like descent, right? So then what I then do, I go to YouTube and try and find a black person who's gone to Slovenia, and then they'll say, "Don't come here." It's a risk to your health, right? And that's what I mean, because much of the discussion that we have, or much of the kind of words that get touted to us in the terms, they're not really for us, they're aimed at us, So, I won't say who, but someone quite prominent. I saw a term recently, and I was a bit, I had problems with it, to be honest. And it was something called, I saw something called toxic racism. I have no idea what that means, because racism in itself is toxic. So I think the discussion that this person had was really talking about, Brexit and the fact that, there are more far-right attacks, etc. So that's a toxic aspect of racism. And I kind of looked at it and I just thought, I really don't give a damn, because really racism is toxic in itself. And whether someone's trying to lick me in my head, or whether someone's trying to stab me in my back nicely, they still want me dead, right? So again, it's a case of we don't need to necessarily jump on the bandwagon, but we have to hold firm in terms of how we define things for ourselves. One of the best things when it comes to racism, I don't have any discussion about racism unless it's talking about a systematic institutional process, because that's what it is. It's not about whether or not someone likes you, whether or not someone socially integrates with you, whether or not you could eat tea sometimes and you have friends with people. It's not an individual thing. It's a systematic institutional thing. And it's interesting how many different reports we're seeing from Scarman to Lamy that's mentioning so many different aspects of institutionalized racism, from the police to the criminal justice system to the educational system. Thank you, the NHS. Oh, there you, okay, right? Yet we still get into these conversations where, if someone from, our hue and our background says something about anyone else, I hear, not in this room, "Oh, why are you being racist?" Well, I can't be. And the thing is, I stand firm to that, and people are supposed to disagree with you because you are there representing your perspective, and that is what being political is. You have to stand firm on your perspective, okay? So the point of standing firm on your perspective is the point to push the argument and push dialectic, because people are supposed to give you that inertia and feedback, and it's their choice whether or not they are going to move based upon your opinion or not. Okay. We need to be standing firm to what we hold core, what we hold true, and push the argument, because this is who we are. And again, like I mentioned, my grandmother, my mother, only because I have a clear understanding that for there to be a legacy, there has to be a legend. Mm-hmm. So we have to be prepared to create the legends for our children and our children's children and our children's children, because there won't be a legacy after that. And that's the truth. And the thing is about that is that legends are not easy to build. And they're generational. And they're sacrificial. But they're consistent. And you have those stories from generation to generation to generation that prove that what we do and what we did was worth it, because they have a better future. With that, I'd like to thank you for hearing me. Have a great evening.
See, my brother says something very important, and you have people, as I said of his wife when she spoke here in December, as superheroes. You can't see their cape, but they do it every day, consistently, in work within their role, where we get information from them, and know exactly what is going on behind the scenes, where their families are functional, where their children are catered for educationally as they're supposed to, where they understand what a cultural legacy is. I said something earlier. We're all responsible to culturally represent ourselves, to promote, preserve, and keep who we are. Because without it, we're nothing. If you want to see what we are without culture, look in the animal factory outside. So whatever they want to do with us, whatever the new term is, it was BME, Black Minority Ethnic. Then Asian, my brother, today, we are brothers. Hey. How come you, my brother, around this money? Let go that. The only letter we focus on today is B, in BAME. And the B doesn't actually mean anything, because black means something while you're in the shower and you're listening to the song. We're proud to be black. But it don't mean nothing, because you're not actually a nation. So when they say an Asian, and you go to Sotol, they are a nation. And do you know how you know people are a nation? Because my brother Rodney said something very important. We're very tolerant. So they say, you're homophobic. Oh, my good God. How can I be homophobic? I live in Brixton. And there's the Fridge. And it's one of the biggest gay clubs on a Saturday night. Nobody got beat up. And gentlemen were practicing their proclivities on back streets. And I have seen them when I'm going home and I haven't attacked anybody. And our home is their playground and their dustbin. Because you can see the condoms, you can see the used drug paraphernalia, because they come to play, where there's poppers to relax their mindset, or foil, because they're chasing the dragon. So we're the most tolerant people on earth. But it's because we have no collective politic. You see, we are indoctrinated to be very malleable. Because you know why we're here? To serve. We were educated and groomed to serve like children. So the religion is beautiful. Come to me as a child. Okay. You need 10%? No problem. You got a Lexus, I just took a bus. Come to me as a child. But we're not children. And there's nothing that we hold in our chests that culturally we represent as a people. Because let me tell you something, when you go to South Hall, and you may be offended when you're spending money and a man puts your money on the counter, and then he's talking about you to his man in a language you don't understand. But let me say something about this man. I respect him. I respect him. You know why I respect him? Because he has clarity. He has clarity about the fact that you're a guest in his yard. So if you're a guest in his yard, how should he treat you? Like you're supposed to stay and come in and feel comfortable and do whatever the hell you want to do? No. No, there are ramifications for you playing the fool. Because I have a shop. You know what happens when you come in my shop and you act the fool? Boop! This ain't a playground, you know. And then they smell the room. See the temperature change. You kind of cold. Now, the truth don't have no temperature, baby. Final no sense. You're a guest. It's not a playground. It's a business. It's where I make my money. It's how I feed my family. So now you're aware. See, Mr. Pate, he's feeding his family. He don't give a damn about you. But you know where you're useful? Because you're malleable. Look at these videos. Everyone seen the video of this European man who's gone to Tower Hamlets and he's swearing after children. They breed like rats. Okay. It's disgusting. And as a man, I'm mortified and disgusted. And I have empathy for their upset in Tower Hamlets. But now as a pragmatist, Menaria has one finger. And I'm going to tell you why. Because when our parents and grandparents were being deported last year, which was merely a bank robbery, do not get it twisted. Remember, I told you, our taxation paid our former owners and remunerated them. our time done. But you know what these people have got post 60, 65? Pensions. So what happened if you're not a citizen? You got a weekly pension. Where's that gone? It's called a bank robbery. I told you, there are men in rooms who are a lot more mercenary than you, but not me. Not me. I wouldn't raise one finger. But my brothers and sisters in Tower Hamlets have my empathy because no organization came out by our side. And do you know what others did? They laughed. And what are these bags? The Go Ghana bags? You know what they call them? Removal vans. When they see us getting off planes. So it's funny that our parents and grandparents who spent their whole life here working to build were humiliated. And the hope was they die before any case is resolved. So knowing that, have clarity about who you got to serve. But there's a reason I mentioned Tower Hamlets, because I belong to over 100 WhatsApp groups and Facebook groups and institutional WhatsApp groups. And there was a group, I won't name it, but all the empathy was there. We got to come out in solidarity. So then there's little old me. Oh, that was disgusting. That man should be dealt with. But not by me, baby. And I don't believe by us. And this comradeship that you're seeking to create seems more organized than anything I've witnessed in the last 2 years. And I'm a highly experienced man. And I speak to a lot of people. And I know what's going on in a lot of rooms. So I questioned it as a man. And the responses came back, we have to build unity. So I'm not too smart. So I asked myself, what question should you ask? Well, because I'm a very basic guy. And I believe that the highest form of intelligence is base. The lion eats the antelope, not because he's jealous, not because he's cute, because like me before I came in this room, his belly was rumbling. I eat that. Very basic. So we as a people now have to be very basic and strip it right back to basics. You want to hear a basic question? So, let's unity attack. Sounds fantastic. So here's my basic question as a layperson. What's in it for me? And Mr. Patel might say, brother, I'm your brother? I can come around on Christmas Day? Go look your mother and father. We must have clarity about serving our community. What our community need is socio-economic organization. So 3 PACs, 3 institutions are being incorporated. One is a political PAC. What is the political PAC? The political PAC weaponizes our votes at a national level. That is called a super PAC. That super PAC is about having representatives in every one of the 33 London boroughs and the counties. Those who have been working in isolation as advocates now work as a fist, connected by technology. Then we can meet as frequently as we like, because we have conference calls going across the land. Now we have one agenda, not one party. See, if you come in my house, I don't care what trainers you're wearing. I care that when you take them off and land them outside, your foot doesn't tink when you come in my living room. So we don't care about your brand. We're voting within our interests. So every one of those boroughs might be voting differently. But what we're doing is not advising as a PAC. You see, we create the messages based on donations from our businesses, which are offsettable against taxation, to do what? Instruct you per borough who to vote for within your interests. So everybody speaks about the most successful community who are the tiniest minority in this country. And they are 300,000. So we know power is not numeric. If power is not numeric, what is power? So if you've got 10 guys who are feeble-minded, and I come in a room very sharp, and they've all got a tenner, and I know how to take the tenner away from them, what are these 10 men not that I am? Organized. So once you understand that we're out-organized, you put the policies, procedures, balances, measures, and checks in place to correct it. No European is coming for you. Oh, do you know what ACPAC will do? The African Caribbean Political Action Committee. Well, one, it will liaise with brothers and sisters in the States. And then we join as a war of attrition, African states, because we're Africans. Black doesn't mean anything. It only means something in the shower, remember? Okay. So if black doesn't mean anything, Africa is a continent. There are nations who become members. And then we can send our trainee brothers and sisters and politicians on secondments for most effective practice and also for trade links. So when I use the term Blaxit, people would like to put it down to this, look, it's not cute. It's very formal. It enables you to work outside of their system. And since the pack is a trust, it's outside of UK legislation. So you can't tell me about raising money, who I can back and what I can do. Same thing I would tell Mr. Smith is the same thing we tell Mr. Patel. Go look your mother and father. Okay. So what is power? Power is autonomy and options. How do you create options? You create options by creating an economy. If you are in a job which pays the sum total of your bills and your boss says you're staying an hour and you're not getting paid, you have no options. Okay. So then you have a brethren who also has a shop. And he said, I'm going to pay you on the weekend. Well, you know what you got now? Options. Because your economy has grown. You see, our options come from economics. Now, you have to pay tax as an individual. You have to pay tax as a business. You can't keep it. So you can donate as much as you want as a business, and you can donate that portion from your job, and you won't feel it. But do you know what it will do? It will serve your people, your nation, your institutions, and your interests, which grow your options. Because now we've funded this school next to us, we can take our children out of here. And because we are constituting my sister Kay Johnston's educational curriculum as a formal curriculum in trust, we will now deliver this entrepreneurial African curriculum as we see fit in not only our schools here, but where we do the licensing with member states internationally, and it's monetized. So now we have options, and you can deliver code from a curriculum where you have children. Just imagine, this is an assembly. This is an assembly of 500 children, just like when we sat down with Europeans. And the mantra within this assembly every morning, I am my brother's keeper and my sister's protector. From preschool, 3 years old, all the way to 17. And then your head looks at you. Touch one. Touch all. You play the children. Touch one. Touch all. Lord God. I'm getting home. And I truly workless. We do this every day, incidentally, in assembly. So I'm ahead. Touch one. Touch one. Sleeping people. You know, one thing I love about black people, we're cute because we need numbers. You see, last month when there was like 200 in there, it was beautiful because everybody could hide like we work in the civil service. You see? No, sir. Touch one. Touch one. Wait. You see what that does in your chest? You see, if I did that 10 times, you get a little lightheaded. The euphoria. is revolutionary because you can't say every morning between 3 and 17, I'm my brother's keeper and my sister's protector, and be hollering, touch one, touch all, and not think as a nation, with no interference from Europeans, Bangladeshis, other agendas, no interference. Africa for Africans. When you have Africa for Africans, you feel powerful, right? You see, no matter there's 50, you feel like 50,000. We are the strongest, most resilient people on this planet, which is why the most interfered with people on this planet. You cannot take a shank at 18 and stab your brother if you've been saying that for 15 years. So if you want to know what the health policy is, we're going to do the public health approach. Well done, man. We're African people. Make it simple. Because you want to make a simple process and concept sound complicated, so we can't go for the money. Do you want to know what the public health approach is? Early intervention. What is early intervention? It's rites of passage, it's the correct education, and supplementary school, which is totally cultural. And we are the only people capable of delivering it. No European can deliver that to us. So, once you have clarity about the public health approach, which is early intervention, we're clear. We can do it. Now you need to give us the money to deliver it. And we have the vehicles, which are the trusts and charities. And as I say that, my brother and partner, Ghana man, Nana Ajiman, is at the back collecting donations for Access UK, working with young people. We'll do that. We're going to have a break in 2 seconds. But I have to acknowledge this general because, you see, we talk about personal politic and we talk about consistency. I'm going to tell a story, and I need you not to cry because you need to be able to count the money afterwards. My brother set up Access UK after the riots. And because these things are capital intensive, he sold one of his homes to fund it. Now generals have joined him. And very important things are happening in rooms to give our children curriculums before this curriculum was on the table. And we have a program starting in Tottenham within the next few months. So understand that we exist within our community and are doing. You could have found this gentleman and our other colleagues in Parliament, in the Mayor's office, you name any institution around this land. We have been there. We exist. Things are happening, we are moving. But it's a choice. So a man or a woman is responsible for themselves. Look in the mirror. I have been robbed. Do you know what I did? Are you that? Why you put yourself in that position? Did I put myself in the position again? I didn't think it was acceptable. And I come from a place, good or bad, we don't call police. It doesn't matter. But I'm going to tell you why. You see, you think this is a thing of criminals. And there was a period in my younger life I was a petty criminal. But it is more historic than that. When we were on plantations, we plan and plot to escape. The informer is the one that destroyed our master plan. No matter we were numerically more than the overseers, they were more organized and we were mentally and spiritually broken. There is a lion spirit that can beat any environment or any circumstance, but they are a tiny minority. They are the organizers. They are your Nat Turners. But Stevens largely outnumber. That is the history of why we don't inform. Understand. The history of us having slang, which is looked down upon, is because our language was stolen. So we have to have a different lens for these things. Your lens must be an African lens, not a European lens that looks down on African people, which is easy. Even after I put on a dashiki, if my mindset is of indoctrination, it doesn't matter what I display externally. As I come in a room, dress like I dress, speak like I speak, people have a perception that I have a European woman and I do this and do that. No matter, go look your mother and father. What is of all importance is what you do. And when you tell me you know, I tell you, knowing is doing. So if you not do it, you're not sweet FA. And I don't care if we acknowledge it today, tomorrow, we know. We're going to break for 10 minutes. Everybody have some drink at the back. There's a lovely lady with some food. There are black dolls. There is international travel and books at the back. People, please, 10 minutes. Thank you. Yeah, I homeschool for 4 years.
Really? Okay, what's the... Can we talk about it?
Absolutely. You can do what you like.
Yeah.
You are not limited by anybody.
I thought you said there was an organization who managed the homeschool.
Yes.
What's
It's
that
not
name?
homeschool. It's an educational curriculum, and we're incorporating that in trust. Now, I'm not going anywhere, though.
Yeah,
I'm here.
I am though.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
I'm going now.
Right, take my email. Okay.
I'm going now, but it's nice
I'm going to
meeting
be
you.
gentler with you. And I'm so happy that I've met you. Give me a cuddle.
So with regards to the charity,
Those things are happening. So the next part will be when we call for trustees. And we will call for trustees, directors, and all roles. And that won't be hidden. If you think you are visible now, you wait until those come about. D,
Delta.
the letter D, dot.
Delta.
How you doing, sir? Okay.
O for Oscar.
K for kick. I for Indian.
I
A for alpha.
Okay.
I for Indian.
Okay.
A-I.
Okay.
A-I. A before the I, sorry. A-I. At. Access. A-double-C. E-double-S. UK.
All one. Yeah.
Yep. .co. .uk.
Remind me your name again.
Yes, sir.
Remind me your name.
Dean. D-E-A-N. Yes, sir. No, not soon, bro.
I'm inspired. So
Bless you.
we'll do it
Thanks
again.
for coming out.
That's all right. That's all right. But I got your number, so we'll connect.
Bless you. In several lines. You see this one for the taxation? The website is there. All the details are there. I placed it about 6 times. www.abcpt.co.uk, and it's about taking the taxation, putting it directly in the trust, and us using it. I'm going to send you it again. I'm going to send it to your phone. And all you got to do is press on the link. Lovely to meet you. Take care.
Head back to
Yeah,
Slough.
because of the young one.
Yeah, and also need to pass by Selena.
Okay.
Back of the roads.
Yeah.
I've got to buy her some stuff. She needs to become a CRC. So she can come and
God bless.
because
Yeah.
I'm down here. I'm going to buy hers.
Okay. Yeah. I'm going to be speaking with her as well. Leave them with me. I'm going to hand them out at the back. I'm going to make sure.
I think they're both. Well, one's
You won't need,
card and
don't
one's
waste them. You don't need that many. So because of the numbers, let me take this many. Because
What about your
one
business?
thing,
Can they go in
there
the
you
shop?
go. I absolutely could. Come on, I bet. I don't want to waste it.
If you want me to speak about the politics of employment or whatever, another day.
Absolutely. I don't want to hold you the more you because I know the thing.
10, so, yeah?
1 minute.
With the membership one, would they instruct because it's
Talking about unions, I'm saying. Unions, trade unions. I have a sister who's been collecting names of the African members from Unison, and we'll do the same in the teams, and they will be straight in the pack. We're not named, it's all connected. God bless you. I met them at,
On the 5th?
no, I met them last year at the... Public. It was. I got too many things in Let me tell you something. I'm not wasting time because now I'm separated from the person by no degrees, and I'm just dealing with you. God bless you. Yeah. I'm just gonna organise some of these guys, but you're the link. Because I know Glenn. We have politics is the experience.
1 2 1 2.
Shh.
1 2 1 2. Check check check. 1 2. Yeah.
And everything what I said on the video.
Yeah.
About.
Test. I was gonna say, where's the logo? You need the stickers at. C.O.E. baby.
Yeah, everything I said on the video.
Yeah.
I said, if Theresa May, this is 2 years ago I said this, I said if Theresa May stays, she will go down in history as the worst Prime Minister. If Theresa May got any sense, she will resign and go off to the desert and just hang out and, just chill. Let someone else take this shit.
Yeah.
I said,
Legacy in this.
well, it's an untenable position that she's in.
Yeah, of course. But the thing is, it's untenable that she might as well just save herself the trouble and leave. But she's not going to do it because she's got her heel stuck in.
But the thing that Theresa May was saying up until recently, she was pro-European.
Yeah.
So she had to do a 180.
Of course.
And so it's like Theresa, what the fuck are you doing, really? But anyway.
No, it's politics, isn't it? It's politics and games. So yeah, so what's your name before we start?
Rashid.
Rashid.
R-A-S-H-I-D.
Perfect.
It's cool, man. It's very simple. It's cool. But, as a community, we don't understand
politics.
Yeah, we don't understand it.
Yeah, no, 100%.
We don't get it. It's like them people who watch boxing.
Yeah.
And what they see, they might see the big
haymaker. Yeah.
They haven't seen how that man was set up
100,
to land.
100, yeah.
And that
body
move,
work.
Move to set him up happened halfway through the round.
Of course, yeah.
Because the man said, okay, get him like this, and throw that,
And then it'll open up for me.
Right, I'm going to line him up.
100, yeah.
It's only certain people see the lineup.
Yeah. A lot of people miss it.
Everyone sees the knockout blow.
Yeah. And
shit.
And a lot of people give meaning afterwards.
Yeah.
Because the knockout blow will happen, and then you'll have 5 different stories of how the knockout blow happened.
Right.
And a lot of people are just like, because they're not focused on the
don't
come
see
up,
it.
they start making up sort of thing. And the same with politics.
They
like,
don't see the signs.
That's something big will happen in politics. You can get counter explanations afterwards. 10 different people explain the same situation, but none of them actually watch the lineup. So you ready, yeah? All right, cool, yeah. Content over everything. It's Captain Scarlet here from Scattered Minds. I'm here with Rashid, who is the black minority ethnic representative for the Green Party, or was at one point.
No, was it? I'm still there.
Still there, cool. And we're going to be discussing basically this event right now, Blaxit. What do you mean? What do you understand by Dean Okai's meaning of Blaxit?
Well, who do I look at? Look at the camera.
Me.
Look at. Okay, sorry, right. Blaxit. Well, Dean's right there. So maybe you should ask Dean.
What do you take from it, though?
What I take from it? I take from it whatever happens come March the 29th, how we as a community will be affected by it. That's what I see as being Blaxit. And we're in a bad place. We're not prepared for it. We're not aware of it. It's like the Titanic has been hit by an iceberg, and we're those people that are still dancing.
What do you think the effects are going to be for our community in particular, then, from Brexit per se?
Well, what you find is no matter what happens in this country, whenever the economy goes down, racism increases. Yeah? And so for us as a community, we have to understand that things are going to get tight for us, you know? And what Brexit has done, the actual vote itself, people voting to leave the EU, it has emboldened a certain section of white society. So now racism has now become acceptable again, you know? The other day, there was a football match, Everton played Millwall just down in South London, and them boys was out on the streets tearing each other up like it was the 1980s. And then there was a little video of a little Millwall supporter. The boy was about 2 or 3 years old, racist to the core, being egged on by his parents. And you think, yo, it's 2019, son. We got Stormzy in the charts and whatever. You got it? All right, my sister. You know? And you start to realize that this stuff is coming, it's becoming more acceptable. Yeah? And I don't think we're prepared for it, because when it hits properly.
So what do you think about like events like this, and how much do you think these can actually help to prepare us for that eventuality?
I think anything that brings people together, where they can exchange information and ideas, has to be a positive thing. But obviously, once the talking's done, there has to come the action.
And what do you personally hope to get out of this, or hope to contribute to this sort of event?
Well, Dean invited me down here today to speak about politics and the art of politics, because you might get a lot of people who talk about politics, but ain't no mofos doing politics. I stood for election 2014, 2015, 2016, 2017 in this constituency to represent the people of Brixton. And when you see how our people are very reluctant to get into politics, not realizing that everything we do is political. Politics is only the art of getting things done. There was a previous speaker who he's very wordy, and you know, I'm like, yo, I'm thinking to myself, yo, bro, make it simple. We got children in here. Make it simple. As Malcolm X said, make it plain. And to make it plain, politics is the art of getting things done. And right now, as a community, apart from inflicting pain upon each other, we ain't really getting much done. Do you understand what I'm saying?
100. So you have experience, like you say, you've actually done politics where a lot of people, myself, went to university, I studied it. I have worked around Parliament, in Parliament, but not directly in politics per se, in any position. How long have you been working in politics, and in your particular position that you're in right now?
Okay, so what happened with me, I got into politics kind of by default. It was like a community calling. I made a film called Why Don't Black People Vote? I'm actually a filmmaker. And the film looks at the low voter turnout in black communities, right? And one of the things that came out of the film was that the people said there's no one for us to vote for. No one understands us. They talk down to us. They haven't come out of the struggle with us, but whatever reason they give. And so elections were coming up, and all the cats that were in the film, that I interviewed as part of the film, I called them up, because I wanted to make part 2 of my film. That's what I wanted. Remember, I'm a filmmaker. And all the man that was in the film, I called them all up. I said, yo, big man, elections come up, you're standing. Nobody would stand. And I thought, you know what? If no one stands, then I got to stand.
Why do you think that is then? Why do you think our community in particular are so afraid or so reluctant to go and stand or get involved in Westminster politics?
Because we're scared.
What are we scared of?
Scared of ourselves.
Oh, do you not think we're afraid of the system itself?
Yeah, but we're scared of ourselves. Because the reason why I say that is because when you see how we act when we're not afraid, the stuff that we do, when Garvey said you will never know yourself till your back is against the wall. which means you reach that point where you're like, you know what, I'm swinging. And I might even land a couple blows. And then when you land a couple, you're like, right, okay, I got a little
Space.
I got a little
space to maneuver.
Yeah? But you've got to be in that position where you're like, you know what, there's nothing else left. There's no more fear.
Do you think the system keeps us just away from that position? So we always feel like our back's not to the wall yet, so we don't have to start fighting. We can just get on with the system as it goes. We don't have to vote, we don't have to partake.
Well,
get our heads down, work, and just ignore everything else.
I think the mental trick, what they've played, not only on the black community, but also the wider community as well, is that they've taken this idea of politics and they've made it all kind of esoteric, and you've got to be middle class, white, sit down on the seat with Andrew Neil, and you talk a certain language, you know? Right. The other day I'm with my son, he's like 7 years old, and he rolls with me when I go to events because I ain't got a childminder, so he just comes and sees his dad talking to like hundreds of people. So he might be at the back doing his thing, but he knows, all right, my dad's someone. When it came down to standing for school council at his school, my man gets elected. The other person who got elected is a young lady whose family, Asian family, I know, is a political family. And it's like, okay, so our children,
set the trends.
They follow whatever we lay down.
Definitely, yeah.
If they see us act a certain way, they're like, well, that's what my dad does, so that's what I'm gonna do. If they see their dad acting a certain way, or their mother doing a certain thing, right, so we just follow. So my point is, in a long-winded way, is that if we don't challenge the fear that we have, you know that poem that Nelson Mandela read on his election? Our deepest fear is not that we are weak. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful, powerful beyond measure. It's our light, not our darkness that we're afraid of. We need to teach that to our children because they don't realize how they can change this game. Right now, West Indies, I'm a cricket man.
Okay, cool.
I play in England.
Yeah.
Right now, as we speak.
Yeah, they're doing well this time around.
Right. England, population, 65 million people.
Yeah.
They invented the game of cricket. Ranked number 2 in the world, supposedly. West Indies, a collection of islands down in the Caribbean, supposedly third world. Population combined, I know, nah, brother.
20?
Brother, the population of Barbados.
When you say West Indies, you're talking about the English-speaking West
I'm talking about
Indies,
English.
not Cuba and
No, I'm talking about the ones who play
cool.
cricket.
Yeah, cool.
Right?
Yeah.
Half the team
100%.
is from Barbados.
Yeah.
The population of Barbados is smaller than the population of Lambeth.
Of course, yeah. Mad.
That's half the team.
Yeah.
From Barbados. Few islands together, England have gone down there like, yeah, we're going to wipe these boys. And the men are like, really?
Yeah.
Game on. Boom. Battered England. It's in the mind, brother.
100. Like Garvey said, confidence.
It's in the mind.
And I think politically, a lot of us lack confidence, and so we've already started losing. I think they're gonna.
Yeah, nice, cool.
2 minutes. Alright, cool. So I just wanted to get last things quickly.
Sure.
How's your experience been within the Green Party as somebody working actively in politics and as a black person working through the system, working? What many people see the Green Party as a middle class sort of white.
It's 100% middle class white party.
Yeah.
However, when you look at the policies, and I'm not interested in I'm interested in policies.
Yeah, for sure.
The policies are the only policies. They're the only party that talks about reparations for slavery. Yeah. All right. That's what you're talking about. They're the only party that talks about changing the terms of trade between the so-called third world nations. Yeah. Middle class white. Cricket was a middle class white man's game.
Yeah, for sure. Come. All right, cool. I think we'll wrap it up there. I hope we'll catch you in a little bit. We're gonna go back to the rest of the live stream. But yeah. Rashid, Green Party,
Captain Scarlet.
Captain Scarlet, that's me.
I used to love Captain Scarlet when I was a youth. You know,
not a lot of people understand that, but
Captain Scarlet was dark,
OG.
man.
It's bad, man. Trust me.
Captain
Watch Captain Scarlet if you ain't watched
Captain
it yet.
Black?
Captain, oh, that's proper things, but
and the Angels,
proper things,
and the Mysterons,
running things. Look at that.
Yeah, no, that was my program.
I'm gonna bring it back still.
That was my program.
Captain Scarlet's
I was sitting down with my son watching it, and my son was like, "Dad, this is frightening."
Yeah, he ain't watching the puppet thing.
This is frightening, Dad.
Take a little time for him to get into that one, yeah, for sure.
I said,
man.
yo, we grew up on this stuff. Listen, man, keep it up.
100%, man. It's been good talking to you, brother. Bless, man.
Yeah, brother. It's nice. respect. Yeah, man. I'll make some sense.
I'm giving you the heads up, brother.
Mailing list. Books, Disruptive Education, October release. RRP is going to be $17.99 each.
Yep.
Pre-sale today is £12.
Okay.
They just need to come and see myself or Rodney before they leave.
God bless.
Yeah? Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're coming back. And we are on the clock, family, because there's a point when we always get kicked out of these buildings, including today. I'm glad everybody got to meet and connect, family. Full bellies, comfortable minds. God bless. Okay. So before I introduce our next speaker, Jackie Burnett, who is a counselor in Luton, I have a few announcements. We are collecting for a mailing list to start a credit union at the back. So if we can get everybody's details there, it's very important. This gentleman with his hand up, associated with the wonderful community station Galaxy. Our brother Rodney, who is not a very experienced speaker, so he lost his way. But this gentleman and his vast intellectual capital around politics are encapsulated within 2 books. So we've got Politics and Identity. So these are the reference books that we need for our institutions. These are the reference books that we need for our educators. Rodney's lovely wife and our family friend, Dana Byerfield, is at the back. So you can see them to register for pre-sales at £12. But when it comes out, it will be $17.99, and it's a very substantial publication. The second book, and my brother's amazing wife did say, I wouldn't be able to read her writing. Disruptive Education, because she is a doctor, and they have a particular type of writing. So you can see Dana at the back, but these are very important reference books, and they're very important reference books for people who work with our children. So as soon as there is a website, we will also put those notices out within all of our distributed messaging. So now I would like to introduce Jackie Burnett, who's going to give you an understanding of what it's like from inside the halls of councils. Thank you, Jackie. You could take the stairs.
Thank you very much. I'm honoured to be here, and my partner, I couldn't do a lot of what I've done without Lorna. Lorna, can you stand up, please? I know she's going to kill me about this. And the reason why I've managed to survive 3 terms in politics, I believe, is because I've been rooted with my community. Yeah, because it is a lonely place in politics. I have to say, for the black community, if you're a black person, and conscious as well. So I'm an East End girl, right? So if you can tell by the accent. So I'm born in Hackney, grew up in Hackney, went to school with Bridan. Yeah, so I'm a child of the Windrush generation, and I'm not ashamed of it. I think one of the things that's happened to those of us that either came over or was born here, we decided somehow that we were ashamed of who we were. And I'm not. So anybody says, oh, you got an accent? Yeah, I do. I really don't have a problem with it. Where do you come from? I come from Hackney. Some people in my family goes, I come from North London. It's like, what's that? That's the whole of north of the river. No, I am very comfortable that I come from Hackney. So the reason why I sort of got, and it sort of builds on from Rodney's point, and I want to give you some stats, which is what Dean said today. So there's about 300,000 Jews, and I grew up in the East End, Stoke Newington, where the Jews do not sell to the black. Those are the sort of thing. I used to see people moving in and moving out of their property. I never saw a for sale sign. And it wasn't until later on I understood why. And the same egg store that is by Stoke Newington Cemetery, 50 years on, is still there. Yeah, they support their own. Yes, and they sustain their own. The same clothes shop on Stamford Hill Junction, that little is still there. And I've left Hackney since 1987. Yeah? Fashion comes, fashion goes, taste come, taste goes, but that which they own do not leave. So for me, when I moved into Luton, I used to come down to London quite a lot. And then I thought, but stop, why am I coming down to London all the time when Londoners ain't coming up to me in Luton? You know, so I'm isolated, I'm lonely, and I thought, no, I need to be part of where I live. And I had children. And I hear all the complaints that have been going on about the education system, and I went to school. I love school. I have to say, I did love school. It was best. But I also, with greater understanding, later on, understood what was being done to us. And one thing I've realised, that politics is about money. Yes, Rodney said it. So I've got friends who go, oh, you wasting your time getting in, and you good to get involved in that. Yeah, what are you getting out of it? Well, I will tell you what I've got out of it and what it's benefit the community in Luton. Yeah, so I got involved, first of all, as being a school governor, because I want to know what's going on with my child. I want to walk with my child. So I got involved in being a school governor. Again, oh, you good, you got time to do that. How are you doing that and you're a single mother? Yeah, how are you managing to do that? Priorities. So I remember the first parents' evening, my teacher said to me, oh, your child is so manageable, she's so good. Yeah, forget that. How is the attainment? Yeah? The teacher said, oh, you're a pushy mum. Really, I don't have a problem with that. I'm cool with that. That same teacher, we're good friends now, yeah? On LinkedIn, all of that, yeah? Pushy mother got what she needed to get for her child. So I became a school governor, and I've been a school governor ever since. I also got involved in a credit union, because it's about the money, yeah? People borrowing, paying these massive interest rates that weren't existing in 1997 when I helped. But what I learned is that iron sharpens iron. So I had friends in East London that was involved in a credit union. I only knew the partner. I didn't know about a credit union. My friends involved in supplementary schools. Yes? So it was the credit union. So I remember reading a newspaper in Luton, and they said, oh, we're about to set up a credit union. I thought, oh, I could have a bit of that. Yeah? So I got involved. So I got involved in the credit union, and that helped me re-roof my house after I got it set up. So that's what I got back. I helped in setting it up. What I got back was not paying those exorbitant interest rates. Yes, at the time. So I'd done my roof, I did the fence, helped me do some other stuff because I was a single parent at the time. So I made it my priority to put my family and the politics, because politics is about choice. Money is about choice. What our community don't have is choice. So we get done too, instead of empowering ourselves. So the credit union, I got to know people. I got to get involved. Yeah? So education and school governor helped me with my child to navigate the path through. So I challenged the perception of black because I was able to talk like them when I needed to. Yes? But then when I needed to shield my daughter, I told them that I'm a parent first and a governor second. And I've got massive respect from everybody. They call me the Rottweiler, the Bulldog. I don't really have a problem about that in Luton. Yeah, yeah, because it was about my children and then about my community. So about 2006, I got made redundant again, Tarated. I thought, bloody hell. God. Yeah. Oh, well, I've done everything right. I've got the education. I got qualified. Yeah, beyond degree level. Yeah. And then they changed the goalpost and I was out of work, fighting an appeal because the system told me, the state, that I had parental choice. I could choose what school I wanted to send my child to. So I went and I did those open days after work. And I told them I didn't want the catchment school because it was going into special measures. And I did a 2-page letter. And guess what? They gave me the catchment school. And I thought, what was that all about? Yeah, because I did it your way. So I thought, nah, this is rubbish. So, as an educated person who got the British education, I did one long letter to the head of education. However, they told me this is my choice. I then engaged with my MP, Rodney, saying you don't know your local MP. And guess what? She wrote a supporting letter in for me. And I was so overwhelmed. But I then did 2 appeals. And in the appeal, I got to understand more about the system. Yeah, the same friends were telling me, oh, I'm wasting my time, why are you doing all that? I realised if I didn't have the learning and didn't develop the relationships, I've got a friend that's passed away, David Lewis. He said that his mum used to say, it's all about the lines, it's all about the links. Yes, because I had made links with people, I was able to get teachers to support my appeal. And I did 2 appeals. One in Luton for a school, and I lost it. It was like going to court. Yes? They tell you it's informal. No, it ain't no too informal. It's you and them. Yeah, and you're fighting for your child. And in the process, they said to me, why don't you make us your preferred choice? And I said, well, why would I do that? You've not made me an offer yet. And I lost the appeal. However, I won the appeal to a school in Harpenden. I was told before, why am I bothering to get my child into a school in Harpenden? Because you had no chance in getting it. But I won my appeal for a Harpenden school, and I lost my appeal for a Luton school that everybody classed Luton is working class. So it goes to show what can be done. This was the point of engaging in the system. However, in the time of having not much to do besides fighting an appeal, the community said to me, Jackie, we think you would be good as a counsellor. I went, yeah, you know what, I think I must be doing much better because that school in my catchment, it's been crap for years and it's not moved. What are they doing? I was absolutely shocked. So I joined the Labour Party. Because for me, it's about values. One thing that Rodney is saying, and this is one of the things I'm asking my people to do, is to get more involved in politics. Because if there's 300,000 Jews, guess how many British Pakistans in this country? 1.1 million. Now, you would have thought that it was bigger, wouldn't you? Given the influences that they have up and down the country. But there's only 1.1 million Pakistans in this country. There is 451,000 Bangladesh. You know, that's actually the same as the Caribbeans. But wow, good at the influence they've got. Yes? And then if you come to the Indians, there's 1.4 million. They're nearly on par with us if you take the whole of the African diaspora. The thing is, they have outside, like what Dean's saying, and they get involved inside, which we do not. They're on every governing body in my town. There's not one governing body where their children go to, they're not in. God, you got to look for us. Yeah? That's one thing. They fight. They will argue like puss and dog between them, the Indian, the Pakistani, and the Bangladesh, but they lock down their money to write it for that sector. Because I've seen it with my own two eyes. Yeah? That is what I've learned in the system. So we think, oh, we can't be asked. They make sure that they're in the system, but they have outside the system. Yeah? They have their economic outside, and they have who they want that will be free to do what they want because they're not constrained by the politics. But they also have their people in the politics in every political party, whether it's Labour, Lib Dem, or the Conservatives. Yes? And they can recruit like that. Yes? I've already been told by somebody Indian that if the Pakistani get their certain way, in Luton they will recruit and change the colours of the town in a flash. I am begging my people to join a party. Begging. Yeah? And I can't get us. That's why Windrush happened. Windrush happened because we thought we've arrived. We thought life is sweet. Yes? We can go on all the holidays we want. Yes? And don't have far in this country. So because I'm talking to my people, so I'm just keeping it real, yeah? Yeah? Hope you lot don't go and scandalise me too much on social media. Yeah? We have the numbers. It's not that we don't have the numbers, we do. Because they count on all of our votes. We swing it in certain areas in this country. Yeah? But we do not become part of the political system. So, you need to become part of the political system. I know that there are Asians of all persuasions that are not, sorry Rodney, I'm just telling it real now, don't join the party for the values. They join for the power. This is what I was telling Iona. It's about the power. They look and see who's likely to get in power. Yeah? And they join. And they say what they need to say and act how they need to act to sit and get selected, end of. We find it too hard to join a party because it costs too much money. They get people who's got the money to pay their membership for the political party. And they decide who's going to be representing them. And it's not about competence, because I've seen some incompetent people get positions, yeah? But what they do, they know whom to choose, and they are accountable back to their community. End of. Yeah? And if things ain't going well, when it comes to selection, which is usually 2 years before a local election, so you lot are thinking now, oh, it's really important to vote. Everything's sorted already 2 years before that election as to who's going to have the red rose for Labour, or the blue bit for the Conservative, or the yellow bit 2 years before, and it's decided by the membership in those parties. You just put the rubber stamp on later on. So it's really important that we influence the system to get our voices round the table. By me being at the table, yeah, in Luton, besides my children navigating the schooling system, because I didn't ramp, and they just called me like old-time schooling, and I go, you know what, I really don't have a problem. About the parenting, I, with Lorna, managed to close the education gap that Rodney talked about. Yeah, so in 2004, 23% of African heritage children were leaving schools with five A stars to C GCSE. We, a few of us, sat together, created a plan, and our target was 77%. And we achieved 78. So it can be done, yes, but you have to have people in the system to hold statutory to account. When you're elected, they can't tell you, no, I can't meet you. Well, besides, maybe some can be a bit funny, but you've got to use your brain how to get them round, yeah? But That's what we done. And it was hard. It was really hard work. They didn't want to meet us. Yes, they told us it couldn't be done. We know your children, and we're going, no, we know our children better. And we delivered that. And what we've also done, so these are the sort of things I want you to get involved with. Politically, it's not just about the politics, it's about the influencing and choice in your locality, yeah? Because it's about power, yeah? And what we've done for the last 3 years is that we are now, and we're doing an event in March, remembering our ancestors. Because for me, it grieved me. Every year, there's the Holocaust Memorial. And I go, yes, they did suffer. They did get persecuted. But my people got persecuted for much longer. And who's remembering them? So I realised that the UN gave a day after the bicentenary to remember our fallen. The bicentenary was the 2007 for the abolition of the slave trade. The UN did in 2007, and there was events up and down the country, and we did an event in Luton. So it's about finding the opportunity to make things happen. Now, that was 150 years after the abolition of the slave trade, yeah? So what we've done, I was on the exec, so I'm on the cabinet in Luton. So I went to officers and I said, I want us to remember the falling of the transatlantic slave trade. And they got amnesia. And then I said hello in an email. I love email, protects one, yeah? So I sent them an email and we had a meeting. And then they had the meeting and they went to the leader and deputy leader and chief exec. And they said, we celebrate the Holocaust. What more are we meant to do? Yes? And I went, but that was 10 years of suffering. My people is, how can you compare that? So I went, but it's okay. I'll take it back to the community. So I took it back to the community because they said the community was to lead it. And guess what? We've led it for the last 4 years now. Wow. Yeah? And that's what we need to do. We lead our stuff for our people and then ask them back for our taxes. Yes? Those are the sort of things. So what my dream is, and I shared this with Lorna, what a statement it would be if in like a year, 2 years, every borough in London around the 23rd, 25th of March was to do an event to remember our ancestors, yes, that fell as a result of the transatlantic enslavement. Because we've got Windrush, so you've all got to go out there and do something. Yeah, but they're not national bank holidays. Don't matter. It don't matter. It don't matter. Take what you've got. We've got our weekends. We've got our... No, we've got to take... You can't... Anyway, Jack, so we've got to use the opportunity, yeah? We've got to start small. Because if we allow them to tell us when we can or cannot, we won't do anything. So we've done it on a Saturday, yes? We've got the chambers. We've had people come up from London to our event, yeah? And we've done it different to the Jewish Holocaust, yes? And they've got their stuff and we've got ours, yeah? And what we've done is re-educate. So every year we get the young people, so this is intergenerational, to read out something about a hero or heroine, yes, of the past. So we've done about Sam Sharp, re-educate, and we've shown the history. That's what I've got from it in being in politics, because people say what you've got in it for you. The community, because I've levered some change, you know, those little crumbs. But if I wasn't there, nothing would have happened in Luton. And many would have thought that Luton is just about white and Asian. Wouldn't know that there was Caribbeans there from the 50s. Yeah? So I've made sure. And I've got a motion. So I've got a Windrush motion passed in the council. I've got, yeah? Sorry? That was about for them to work with the community. So Patrick Vernon, who's done the campaign for Windrush, he passed a motion in Hackney, got a motion passed in Hackney Council, and we, within the Labour group, on WhatsApp, has been trying to get other places to pass the motion. So Liverpool now has passed a motion with regards to Windrush and Lambeth, yeah? So that the local authorities will do stuff to recognise the contribution of that generation. So I've done that, and for slavery, for getting our event. So by having somebody at the table, you can have somebody speaking up for the community. If there's nobody there, we get forgotten. So that's why I'm glad that Dean's doing that. So please take away, go back in your area, yes, and do something with regards to the Windrush. Own it. Don't let anybody else do it. You do it in the community, and the transatlantic enslavement in March. Thank you.
Councillor Jackie left us with so many important things there. One of the most important things she said, and this is why they have secret societies, might be coded for many. She just told you the role of our businesses within the community. The role of the businesses is to back those who can. But we don't. The Yiddishers back who can. Asians back who can. It seems like it's foreign to us. It seems like it's new to us. There's not enough business people in our community that realize their role is to back those that can. This is huge. And the fact that a minute statistic of our people can push such legislation and change has happened without a mass organization. So what we need to teach our people is that they can be included, because they are included. It's either we're going to suffer the consequences or we're going to be involved and we're going to push their doors. So for all of the people who we aren't pushing on the door is open, we need to call them in, because there aren't enough of us who are coordinated. We need bigger numbers, because the few of a fist cannot represent 1.5 million people. It is not possible. You need every single person of this ilk across the country to recognize their responsibility, which is the tithes to their community, to give their intellectual capital, time, and a nominal amount of their income to their communities. So I don't want to take up too much time because we're on the clock. My sister's going to come and tell us about business, and then we're going to hand over to Rashid Nix, who's going to tell us about his experiences, not only as a documentary maker. He made a documentary called Why Don't We Vote? Also as a councillor, and then as a Brixton resident, lifetime.
Hi everyone, my name is Sephora and I work for an organisation called Rich Visions. I'm not too sure if some of you have heard of it. But Rich Visions is a business consultancy. So I know that we have been speaking about business and about, coming together. But I know that there's some people here who could be entrepreneurial or have an idea, but need a support and help. So I work under a woman called Mavis Amankwa. Mavis Amankwa is the CEO of Rich Visions. She's been in business for the past 17 years as a British Ghanaian. And she has been able to help so many entrepreneurs or those who are struggling within their business, because if many of you don't know, the BME community apparently don't last more than 2 years in terms of running their business, which is not good at all. And we want to beat those numbers in every way possible. So she's been able to help over 100 small startups and SMEs and give them access to funding of over $1 million. So that's something that we've been doing for a long period of time. And I guess that's what makes her credible, and that's what makes her quite trustworthy within the community. Now, if many of you have an idea, so not only do we give people access to funding, whether that is through a startup stop loan if you have a business that's less than 2 years or have an idea. We will help you get access to funding with that. But we also help those who've been in business for more than 2 years by helping them get access to a growth loan. Now, some of you may be wondering, what if my credit is not so good? We do give a lot of advice in regards to that, so don't shy away from speaking to us if that's one of the issues that you do have. Secondly, as well, if you are can easily understand. So those are things. And we also do PR and marketing as well. So there's so many different things that we do work on, and we have advisors that can assist you on that. So if you are interested or you know somebody, don't hesitate to fill out a form or get in contact with us. We are based in East London, in Stratford specifically. So don't hesitate to give us a call or seek advice. And you also do get referrals. So if you do know someone that has a business and you've given us their details and they're quite successful when they do acquire a service, you will get a reward, a monetary reward, whether that's £50 to £100. So yeah, that's it.
Okay, up next we have Rashid Nix, who needs no introduction to Brixton.
Keep me lubricated.
Do you need these?
I definitely need these. These are.
Yes. Good evening. Everybody all right? Would you not be offended if I sat down? Thank you. No, it's a bit cheeky because I've been at the back standing up and I've been standing at the side all evening. Then I come and sit down like I'm just kicking back and relaxing. But I see this as being like a family gathering. So when we relax and we have a little laugh, that's when ideas and information is exchanged and we experience some growth. You know? When we come out of the anger phase, then things happen. There was an interview I was reading with Malcolm X, and this reporter said to him, you know, about regrets. And Malcolm said something about making the people more conscious. And the reporter, a white dude, said, oh, you mean make them more conscious to their oppression? And Malcolm said, no, make them more conscious of their humanity. Make them more conscious of their culture and what we can and cannot do. You know, just come out of the anger phase and just relax and just be and just breathe. So I've got to give a couple of very big shout-outs. Sister Aola, Brother Dean, for making it happen, because if they didn't make it happen, where would we be tonight? For real. Also, special mention to all of the people who have contributed, who've got up here and have, you know, shared their opinions and their ideas. That's what it's all about. But I have to give a very special mention to the brothers that are doing this stuff on the media level, that are making sure this message gets beyond these four walls. Because that's one of the most important things. And now I'm going to start to chastise you. Okay? One thing I was clocking. Like me, I'm here, I'm at the side. The brother can testify. Every couple minutes, I'm grabbing the pen, I'm scratching down notes. I hear something, I scratch down notes, I take a note. A young man I was doing some work with who attended Eton. It's a young English dude. And it's always good to move with people from different social classes and different groups because you get little insights. And he said that the boss of Air Asia was doing an assembly at their school. And I thought, rah, I'm working in some academies where they get ex-convicts to come from jail to talk to our youths about going to jail. Eton, they call him the boss of Air Asia, who's a multi-billionaire, to talk to these youths. So they know that they're going to go out into the world and they're going to change the world. He said the boss of Air Asia was talking to them and he pointed at one boy and said, you're going to be a success. And everyone looked at this one boy. And the boy was like, who me? He said, yes, you. Why? Because you're the only person taking notes. The boss of Air Asia, worth a couple billion, pointed out one young man because he was taking notes. How many people in here tonight was taking notes? All right. You're lucky, 'cause I'm on you. So, anyway, let's get this thing up and running. So we've got to share this information. We've got to make sure that this information is live and direct. But also, I think that it's more important that you have the opportunity to ask questions, because I'm sure there's a lot of stuff that you want to know. So very, very briefly, I stood in elections in Brixton in the year 2014, 2015, 2016, 2017. And every time I stand, I always learn something new about myself, about my community, and about the world of politics. And I heard various definitions of politics tonight. I always like to think of the language that we use for politics as being the language of a 12-year-old. If we can't talk to 12-year-olds without them saying, "What did you just say?" then forget it. I see politics as being the art of getting things done. That's it. That's it. If you can't get things done, I don't care how many political books you read, I don't care how many speeches you've been to, I don't care how many meetings you've done, it's irrelevant if you can't get stuff done. And where we as black people seem to end up, we can't get stuff what? We can't get stuff done. But stuff gets done to us. How do we shift that paradigm? How do we make that 180-degree movement to become the people who get stuff done? So when I made my film, Why Don't Black People Vote? I'm a documentary maker. I trained at the BBC. But I made a film about the politics of the area, Brixton, because this is my community. And then all the people that was in the film, from gang members to political animals or so-called political animals, when the elections came up, I said, who's going to stand for office, for election? Nobody would stand. And the number one reason what people said in Brixton why they wasn't voting was because there was no one that represents us. There's no one that knows our struggle. There's no one from our community. There's People found reasons. They always found reasons to not do stuff. You know how we flex. So I said, okay, well, if no one's going to stand, if I'm the filmmaker from the community, what am I going to do? I got no choice. I have to stand. I wanted someone else to stand because I wanted to make part 2 of my film. Then I ended up becoming the candidate. So first time I stood, and with all due respect to my Labour Party colleagues around this meeting, but in Lambeth, in Brixton, Labour are the establishment. Labour are the party who destroyed the black community. Labour are the party who closed down the youth centres. Labour are the party who have presided over the most racially unequal, the most racially divided borough in London. Labour have done this, and come every single election, who do black people vote for? 100%. It's called the Stockholm Syndrome, which was when some people that were held in captivity by some bank robbers, I think, they ended up defending the people that kidnapped them. The Stockholm Syndrome. So as Labour undermine us, we give them our vote. That's what I recognize from making the film. I got away from the rhetoric, got away from the personalities. Let's get down to the policy. In my hands right here, this is a document written by a think tank called the Runnymede Trust. Some of you would have heard of Runnymede Trust. They're not political. They don't take any political line. They go and they do the research, and they just present the facts. Then they allow us as political animals to take the information and do what we will with it. Ethnic inequalities in London. This document that came out, every single borough, the most racially unequal borough is Lambeth, controlled by who? Labour. Number 2, Haringey, controlled by who? Number 3, Tower Hamlets, controlled by who? Yeah. 4 of the top 4 most racially unequal boroughs in London are all controlled by Labour. And we go and vote for the people that are oppressing us. We get nothing in return. The Nation of Islam, they have a lesson that says, why do we fear the devil? Because he gives us nothing. And we still love him. So I always carry this. Education, employment, health, and housing. So that being the case, I could not align myself to Labour. So I made this really crazy move, and I aligned myself to the Green Party, which is the whitest political party out there. Remember, politics is the art of getting things right. Now, if you're tied to the political structure, you can't talk the way I'm talking. If I'm a member of the Labour Party, I can't get up here and say this stuff. I'd get censured. I'd get thrown out. They'd find something to chastise me with, because that's what happens. So I align myself to this group of crazy middle-class white dudes who've got these really mad policies. And as the brother interviewed me earlier on, we was talking about some stuff, and I said, well, maybe I'll leave them guys, because I've reached the limitations of what I can do there. But I've learned a lot of stuff. 9,500 people in London die every year because of poor air quality. We don't read about that stuff. We read about knife crime. Today I was doing a class with some young people over in East London. I said, what's the biggest issue facing young people? They said, knife crime. I said, really? And then one young Asian gentleman said, no, sir, climate change. Because we're going to inherit the world that you leave behind. We're going to have to deal with this stuff. I said, now you're talking, big man. But they've got our young people wrapped into this knife crime debate, so all we do is talk about knife crime. Think about this. We have black-on-black crime, but we ain't got no black-on-black vote. The areas with the highest gang activity have the lowest voter turnout. Malcolm X said in 1964, that's probably the speech that got his ass shot, it's called The Ballot or the Bullet. Have you ever heard that speech? If you haven't heard that speech, go onto YouTube. It's called The Ballot or the Bullet. And Malcolm says in that speech, in areas where you have high numbers of black people, we need to put forward our own candidates to put our agendas forward. And then what happens is, it's cool with the applause, it's all right, because we ain't got much time. What Malcolm said is that when we raise the issues by having the candidates, then the other parties, because they're scared they're going to lose the what? They have to take on board the policies. Flash, you understand? Okay, I'll say it again for my brother, because I love this brother. Yeah? And me and this brother, we met, and the first time we met, we clashed heads. Allow me to tell big man? 100%. Game recognized game, so it's all good. What Malcolm said was, in areas where you have high numbers of black people, you stand independent candidates who raise the agenda, who raise the concerns of the community. Because then people ain't gonna raise them concerns. When you raise those concerns, those other politicians from the mainstream have to take on board your concerns because they're afraid they're gonna lose your votes. So when we say, boy, I'm not voting for the white man, you're like, yeah, brother, you're doing exactly what he wants you to do. That's what you learn from being involved in the game. Does it make sense? Question, go ahead. Okay, well, I could have stood as an independent, and I could have stood with George Galloway and the Respect Party. And I'll be honest, it's a really punk reason, but I'll leverage you. I was trying to get hold of George Galloway, and we was texting each other. And I wanted to talk to George, you know, like have a conversation, like, yo, big man, what's going on? Yeah, but he said, Rashid, text me, man, text me. And I'm thinking, this man's just dissing me. Being all emotional, yeah, not understanding the world of politics, I felt dissed. Because that's what black men do. We get all emotional, we get caught up in our emotions. Oh, he dissed me, but I'm not going to kill him. You know what I'm saying? So then what I did was a very good friend of mine, a man called Shane Collins, old school Brixton man, the white. Good afternoon, sir. Hello. I hear this voice. I'm like, right with the blood, guys. But then me and the man, the next day the man said, come to my office, we have a meeting. The next day. Went to the man's office. I'm looking at this dude, I'm thinking, what's this white dude on really? That's my baggage. Right? I declare my baggage. Yeah. The man said to me, destroy the working class communities. At least with the Conservatives, you know where you stand. These are a bunch of hooray Henrys who are in it to line their pockets and have a good time. They want to take some drugs, they want to have some crazy sex, they want to get re-elected. That's what they're about. That's what the Tories are about. They straight. They got no social conscience. They don't care. And you know that. You go swimming and there's sharks, you best carry your shark repellent spray like Batman. But at least you know where you stand. But when you go with the other crew that claim to be helping you out and they turn around and they shaft you, then you lost. Does that make sense? Any questions? I got the 5-minute signal, so we'll wrap this up. 5%. Peace, God. Today's mathematics is knowledge understanding, I believe. Anyway, no, go ahead. Sister.
And I'm interested in what you think, how you think it will actually impact us, directly for Brexit. Or your
For black people? It's going to be absolutely crazy. Because what Brexit has done, it has basically taken the genie out of the bottle. That genie being racism. So it's now respectable for you to be racist again. Whereas there was a long period where you couldn't do certain things. Now it's like, it's okay, you can be racist. We got Brexit. We got our country back. And no matter what happens come March the 29th, March 30th, that genie is out. And if they fudge the Brexit, the pull-out, and personally speaking, I think they're going to fudge it because there's too much at stake. But what's that? That is going to unleash the angry white male who's going to feel disempowered in his own country. And that's when we're going to see things go real crazy. So the smart people have already planning their exit strategy. This thing is going down. If you can't get an English cricket team to go and beat a West Indies cricket team, half the team is Bajans. You know the population of Barbados is less than the population of Lambeth. And we beat England. Like destroyed them. And these men went down there like, yeah, we're going to take this, yeah. Took 9,000 supporters down there. So all the hotels down in the Caribbean are doing wicked business. So imagine it. So the hotels are packed up making money. The ticket sales is very good. And they lost. It's a perfect world for us, man. It's like wonderful. Roll on next tour. But for us as black people, if we don't start getting some exit strategies, we're going to be... Because every time the economy in this country goes down, racism goes up. Yeah? Can I say one thing just to conclude? In the art of getting things done, I'm going to set you guys one exercise. And this is going to be crucial to what happens with Dean's idea of having the ACPAC. The ACPAC, I like that, the ACPAC. Which will be an organization independent of any political party, which can hold these people to account so they can deliver services to our people because we pay tax. Because we use the resources, but we get nothing in return. Why does he fear the devil now he's a big man? Because the devil gives him nothing. Here we go, to conclude. 2020 is the London mayor elections. Yeah? There are 1.5 million black and so-called mixed race people in London. I hate the term mixed race because I'm one of those people who just see one race, the human race. Okay? Racism and race is something that was invented by some white scientists about 150 years ago to justify enslaving us. So they came up with this thing of racial differences, and we now fall into the trap and we play the game. It's like the boogie, what is it? Dopping over Fred. As long as we step outside of that, which is what I had to do as a person in the Green Party, once you step outside of that, it's a different relationship. Okay, so we got 1.5 million. Think about this one. Malcolm said, the ballot or the bullet. I said the areas with the highest gang crime and gun violence have the lowest black voter turnout. So how do we shift that relationship? This is where you guys now come into the frame. Who's ready to do something really powerful? I mean, I can't hear you. All right. Who's on social media? Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook? Everyone. 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 Okay. So here we go. Lambeth has got the worst gang and gun crime.
Because he's a very effective barrister. My brother was there, my brother was there. And the cheese slid off the toast. Because these characters aren't as impressive as you think they are. It doesn't matter. He's now gone back in. You see why I'm not going to name him? Because he did the right thing. And he resigned. And you see when Liv Peck resigns, she would have done the right thing. And we can enable her to resign. And you know what it is about why she is there? She is what is known as a czar. Czars are experts. And my brother was in the room for the interview. He was actually brought in as a consultant to ask hard questions.
Which you could have asked.
So an hour after that interview finished, me and my brother had a debrief. And she was the third worst candidate in a room with no African Caribbeans, where allegedly we are 79% of the problem. Which he also asked, why aren't the candidates there? And the answer was, there were no African Caribbeans who had the acumen for the role of czar. Now, because we know between us, all of the gentlemen in that senior position, we said they must have been consulted. They must have been interviewed. And I made 4 phone calls after the fact to gentlemen who the role was a mystery to. So Khan has put this woman in place to fail. However, she is a public figure accountable to somebody because she is a somebody. Okay. So when we talk about the rites of passage, when we have organizations like 100 Black Men and Manhood Academy, WILA, amongst many more, who are all brothers. See, they're not separate brands. They're gentlemen in isolation who formed this thing because our African spirit tells us to do it. So they come together as a consortium and they're all in one WhatsApp group and everybody knows each other. So when we go to live with this solution, and that's all we want money for, we'll have the people behind us. So I'm not going to go into this too much now, and there'll be lots of interviews from everybody tomorrow to digest. I want to invite my sister Shanisa, who's been so helpful in us gathering momentum for these meetings, and she's going to talk about part of what is our Blaxit, which is her trip to Zimbabwe. Sister Shanisa.
And rise up Brother Dean and Sister Iola for the amazing work that they're doing across the community. Absolutely fantastic. This is an important, very important day and time, 2019, us as a people organising for political power. So important that we do that. And, you know, we will be more effective when we come together as a collective and move forward as one. So want to rise yourselves up for the great works that you're doing in that area. And as our brother was saying earlier, it's important that we have an exit strategy and we don't put all of our eggs in one basket because, you know, when as they say, hits the fan, we know who they're going to look to first as scapegoats. And it's a road that they were going down. They tried it with the Windrush. But, you know, the Commonwealth was coming up and it was a big embarrassment on the Queen. So she had to instruct her political representatives to make a U-turn. But that is the road that they're on. And we're looking today at the need for us to organise strategically at a national level in terms of organising politically, but we also need to keep an eye on what's happening in Africa. If you've been following the news recently, like me, you might want to conclude that there seems to be a new scramble on for Africa. You've got the German Prime Minister talking about voluntary recolonisation of Africa. You had the Lord, one of the Lords in the House of Commons, joking about voluntary recolonisation of Africa. You've got the French and the Italians argue between themselves because the French government still has 44 African countries paying them reparations, how much billions every year, which leaves those 44 African countries with very little for them to be able to manage on. And you've got, which is the most recent one? I think they're going in up, and the Americans as well today are also talking about Nigeria, and are saying that they're predicting a catastrophe in Nigeria. So they've all got their eye on different African countries with a view to, a new scramble on for Africa. So as well as being very politically aware of what's going on here, we also need to be politically aware of what's going on in Africa. We've got more power than we realise as a people. We just don't exercise that power, But we have a powerful voice here. We're in the belly of the beast, so to speak. This little place here called England impacts the world, And any time we come to organise in a strategic and structured way, we can be very impactful and effective. So, in terms of organising for a Blaxit, I like that one there. There are the ones like myself who are organising trips to different parts of Africa. I'm doing Zimbabwe, there are others that do the Gambia, others that do Ghana. And this is year 3 for me with my trips to Zimbabwe. And I've taken 60 people in total who have had a fantastic time. And it's 14 action-packed days. When we go, we don't just stay in one hotel for the whole time. We visit 5 different cities, and we stay a few days in each of them. And while we're there, we do the tourist stuff, we do the history, we do the culture. This is a trip that's supported by the Zimbabwean Embassy, and it's also supported by the ministers and businesses in Zimbabwe. So I'd really urge you to leave your contact details with us at the table over there, so that I can send you a link for more information about our fantastic, bombastic trip to Zimbabwe. And if you want to hear more from me, I'm also a presenter on Galaxy Radio, Galaxy Afui. My show is on a Wednesday from 10 a.m. through to 1 p.m. And we talk the team. Yeah, it's us talking about issues that impact and affect us. Yeah, so get the contact details for the phone in as well, or leave your details and I'll WhatsApp you the link to the Big G so that you can join in the debate and continue to have discussions about us organising politically, economically, socially, culturally, etc., etc. One love, family.
Now, we were meant to have an exercise from Tony. Now, if Tony can talk the thing while we're putting the chairs away, because we don't own the building, because I'll be happy for us to be here till 1 a.m. But since we've got to come back next month, and it's Operation Dassa, which precedes Operation Blaxit, we're going to put the chairs back. So, whilst we're focusing, if Tony can say a few words, because Tony, incidentally, is a very experienced and humble man, and he's one of those superheroes that doesn't advertise his cape that's underneath his jumper and his shirt. But what he does is very spiritually powerful in bringing us together. So I just want him to say a few words.
Tony Dada. Tony can do a thing together, the music and... So, what I'd like myself and Tony and Sister to do, we're going to play some music, but we also, I feel it feels that what we've gathered here today if we can put the chairs to one side, and I find that we can come together in the middle of the space as a kind of ritual ending. But we need to put the chairs to one side as quick as possible, and then we can kind of come together as a closure in some kind of connected, physical, spiritual way. And we're going to have some music and a drum just to kind of help us close off our gathering. So we can have the drum and we want...
He's wearing the t-shirt. He's wearing the King of Kings t-shirt.
Yeah, okay.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
What's this one?
Mr. Terry.
Black Eyes Terry.
Black Eyes Terry. What's going on there?
Is it going on live?
Yeah, man, it's still live. A couple of people still in the building.
Yeah, we like that, man.
Man's doing the work, you know.
Always working hard.
My battery's dying out.
Man's always doing the work. Make sure you go on to Scatter Minds channel, you know.
Subscribe, but yeah.
Got some great debates on there.
Yeah, a couple more comments still. Put the
Okay, is anybody left just to do this final exercise? Yes? Okay, so we've got the drum. We're going to play a little rhythm on the drum. And if I can ask you to just spend 2 minutes before we leave. We're going to have the drum playing. We're going to have a song by Tony in the background. But in the middle of this space, what I feel that might be useful is that we find a way to connect with each other physically, emotionally, spiritually, and all the other Lees together. So, my suggestion to you is this. What is it that we want to do? What Rashid said in terms of action, getting things done. How can we create something here and now that unifies us? So essentially, I want each person to come into this space here and do something, make something, say something. Something that's just going to bring us closer together. Please, that's what I'm asking.
So you don't want to mock the thing?
Here's a space for us to do something. Whilst we've got a song in the background and the drum playing, let us come together as people and do something. We haven't got very long. Come.